Sri Lanka. Welcome to a brand new day, a brand new show. Today is a Tuesday, the 21st of January. 21 days already down January. Yes, I know, terrible. But it doesn't look as terrible as it is, because today we are going to show you, despite the fact that 21 days is gone in 2014, how to make 2014 extra special by talking about New Year resolutions. And in order to talk about New Year resolutions, we have none other than Rozaine Cooray and her beloved husband, Pujita Silva, with us today. Well, Rozaine is not new to the show. She has been with us twice before, as you said. Yes, and it's Pujita's first time. So, how are you feeling?
Feeling excited.
Okay. So, which is generally I ask this from everybody who comes on the show. Are you morning people?
Myself, not really.
Okay.
I'm a morning person.
How do you handle your housework? You being not a morning person and you being an absolute morning person. How do you balance your work at home?
Well, we are still adjusting because I've lived in Australia.
That's interesting to know.
I've lived in Australia for the last 18 years.
All right.
So I'm here in Sri Lanka now, and we are adjusting to life here.
Nice. Okay, so Rozaine is not new for the show, but I should introduce her properly. She's a business psychologist. She's also the founder and head of Forte Consultancy. And Pujita is the head of Full Life Coaching.
That's right.
Yes, and he's also a biomedical engineer.
That's right.
Very soon going to be a professor as well, a lecturer, hopefully. Let's see about that later. Okay, so today we are going to discuss New Year resolutions. People might be wondering why after 21 days, but still it's better late than never. So tell us, Rozaine, I'll start from you. I would like to know, why do people often set New Year resolutions on the 1st of January, and people like me who become bored after 2 weeks, why do you think they actually skip their original resolutions and move into new ones, or try to maybe give up? Is there a very specific reason, because we were discussing with Pujita earlier before the show started, that people get bored or people give up for different reasons? It could be about their emotions, it could be their physical needs. Why do you think in general people actually do that?
Yeah, I think 1st of January is a good day to set new resolutions. We see it as a new beginning. Yeah. It's a new year. Mainly people, I feel, fail. We fail to actually stick to our resolutions because we fail to actually discover or see why we actually said that in the first place.
Okay.
So you have to, in a way, ask yourself, why is this important to me? Why am I setting this goal?
Yeah.
And to answer the second part of your question, why is it that people give it up? It's also because sometimes the way you set the resolution.
Yeah.
So for example, I just bring an example. Say you want to lose 5 kilos, and say you also define that by saying I want to lose 5 kilos because I want to be seen as somebody who has lost weight.
Ah, right. Okay.
I want to show to myself that I have lost 5 kilos. That's actually an appearance goal.
Right.
So you focus on how you would look in the coming few months or so.
Yeah.
And then also you can we also call it a performance-based goal. That is when we set set our mind to say I'm going to exercise thrice a week. So you specify the amount of time that you would be exercising.
Right.
And then that is actually a performance-based goal. And the most vital part, the crucial part is what we actually forget. It's because if we align our goals to our identity, it becomes actually easier to regulate.
Okay.
So if it is an identity-based goal, so if you tell yourself, well, I want to be seen as a person, or rather, I am a person who's disciplined enough to never to skip a workout, or to avoid eating unhealthy food,
okay,
then it's an identity that you're adopting. Hence, the chances are more that you would continue in the future, that you would stick to your resolution or your goal.
So is it important to have proper self-worth in that manner? Because now when it comes to identity, most people find themselves losing self-esteem when they find themselves blocking or giving up on their New Year resolutions. So I think self-worth, self-esteem is very important in that manner.
I would say we have to start from self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
So who am I? Why is this important to me? Why am I doing this? And from that stage onwards, you say, okay, maybe there are failures, there are stumbling blocks, but it's about actually weathering those obstacles and making sure that you would somehow achieve your goal. And that is easier when you have first defined your identity. I want to mention this. Sometimes we want to become somebody. We always think in our heads, oh, I'd ideally like to become like that person. If you sit down and actually write down the qualities of the person that you want to become, it's really easy in a way to sort of align what you need to do in the coming 1 year alongside that identity.
Alright, so we were discussing before the program starts that it takes from 6 weeks to 6 months in order to get into a habitual circle of adopting a new behavior or making a different change in your life. How do you proceed, and how do you get into that level of determining that you are going to do this come 6 weeks or come 6 months? How do you start that new adaptation into your life?
I would start by saying, first of all, what you're trying to do is to create a new habit.
Right.
And often the reason why a person would fail in a New Year resolution is because it's not a habit.
Okay.
So you're trying to make a change in your life, but the important thing is you need to find a way to support this change.
Right, okay.
So going back to what Rozaine was saying, I think asking that question why is a good way to figure out at the very start of it itself whether is this a strong enough reason that would support you through this change.
Okay.
So if you think about a tree growing, I always use this example of a tree growing. You need to have the roots firmly planted for this tree to grow and for it to blossom.
Yeah.
So at the very foundational stage, you got to ask that question why. And so when your why is strong enough. So at the beginning of the new year, sometimes people make New Year resolutions out of guilt.
Yeah.
So over the holiday period, maybe they would have eaten a lot, and then they have a bit of a guilty complex, and so they set a goal based on that guilt.
Yes.
Sometimes those there are other expectations, external expectations placed on them. And so going back to what Rozaine was saying, when it's an identity-based goal, it allows us to. It's very much there is a greater level of ownership. And that would ensure that to a large extent that you will be able to stick with it.
Okay.
So habits also need to be encouraged. This change has to be encouraged. Sometimes we might not be in an environment that is conducive or that is encouraging us to make that change, and hence we might get to a certain point, and then we might lose steam, lose energy, lose motivation, or plainly we might get discouraged. So because sometimes when we maybe fail at it once, it doesn't mean to say that we failed at the whole goal.
Yeah.
It might be just a temporary setback, and we do need to have peers, colleagues, it could be our spouse, somebody who will be able to pick us up, and who would encourage us to keep going until we are able to stabilize ourselves.
Is it important to have someone, at least one person, as your to be accountable to you? Because there are certain people that I know who have absolutely no encouragement at all, but still they reach their goals. How do they? How are the people who give up different than those people who come what may, and there are nobody around them who are supporting them, but they reach their goals properly? What is it? What do you think the difference is in their mentality?
I think it's at the level of ownership, I would say.
Okay.
I think people are motivated by different things.
Okay.
And so sometimes you can have a very strong motivator, and that motivator itself, that drive itself within you is strong enough to kind of to overcome whatever setbacks you might come. So as an example, say you might have a weight issue, but you might have actually seen maybe a close friend die of a heart attack, or someone who would have had to have their leg amputated due to diabetes, and that sometimes serve as a strong motivator. Now some of these motivators are fear-based, which is not very healthy, because when you're motivated by fear, it's not very healthy.
Can you give us an example of a goal that is fear-based?
So I would say, is taking the same example of losing weight.
Okay.
So sometimes if it is motivated by fear,
All right.
so
Fear of not being accepted.
that's
things like
right.
that?
So
Okay.
that's right. So going back to that issue of self-esteem as well, and the reason why you want to lose weight may be because you are not socially acceptable, or you're not socially
Or you think
accepted.
you're not socially
Yeah,
acceptable.
that's right. Or you might actually get that vibe from
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And so the reason why you want to motivate, lose weight, would be to be socially acceptable.
Right.
And so it is out of that insecurity you set that fear, set that goal rather, and that is not a very healthy one.
Okay.
But rather coming back to that identity-based goal, because you want to be the type of person who is a healthy person.
Okay.
You want to be the type of person who respect yourself.
Okay.
And when it comes from that kind of motivation, it is a healthy way of motivating yourself, and you are able to a large extent
Okay.
stick with it.
How can a complete layman, when it comes to making New Year resolutions, categorize their goals in order to know that they are starting from a healthy point of view? How can they basically identify, okay, my goal is under these categories specifically?
Okay, so we have many areas going at the same time, working for us at the same time. So you may have a physical goal,
Yeah.
you may have a personal goal, you may also have a career goal,
Yeah.
educational goal, financial goal that you want to accomplish during the course of this year. So when you actually we can use many methods. We can we have something called the wheel of life,
Right.
where in that wheel they would categorize different areas of your life, and it's a matter of sitting down and writing the goals, and also evaluating yourself where you are now.
Yes.
Now that is another point that we like to make, that sometimes we are already there. We don't
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
because we compare ourselves with others.
Yes.
And so, for example, I'm sure you have met people who excel so very well in studies and in their career, still not really satisfied.
Yes, indeed.
And so an activity like that will really help you to evaluate in terms of where you are now, and if you want to achieve more in that area, where you want to go.
Right.
So a layman can actually start
And we
looking
will
at
be discussing that right after the break. We have to go for a very short commercial break right now, but after that we will be discussing what Rozaine was talking about in detail, so don't go anywhere.